next incremental step is. It's actually, you know, as you've always heard the old as is, well, we need to look at our current state. We need to sort of understand where we are. And again, lots of different approaches to doing this. You can do a SWOT analysis, which strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, or risks that you have. You could plot out a business model canvas for those people that are familiar with that. I could use process models or customer personas. Again, I want to select the right mix for figuring out what my current state looks like. It may be more than one that I need. But again, going back, the more I get it created in a participatory manner, the better it'll be. You know, if I come along and say, hey, this is my SWOT, my strengths, weakness that I've seen for the organization, I hope I better at least solicit feedback so that I can get some confirmation that the rest of the organization feels that way, right? So if I'm not going to be able to do it in a participatory manner, at least try to do clear communication. And lastly, just proclaiming this is what it is, it means that, at least people might get it, but they might not agree with it. So I'm looking to get buy-in when I'm doing this. So I've got a starting point, I got an aspiration, I know I'm going to take some squiggly path there, it's not going to be a straight line. Nobody gets that lucky. So I've got this work to do, we'll revisit this in a little bit. So I need, the next step after that is I need to determine and prioritize actions to get me to that next state, moving toward that vision. So again, there's lots of approaches to doing this, lots of techniques. I again could revisit my business model canvas and look at different ways of doing it. I could create some strategy maps. I could do a force field analysis, all sorts of techniques that can go into this kind of planning. And again, we want to make it more participatory if we can, right? So lots and lots of techniques that we can go into. And the goal is to get a roadmap of prioritized changes that I want to do, basically a backlog, right? A prioritized backlog of changes. That's my goal, right? And being a prioritized backlog means as environment changes, I may be changing that backlog just like any other product owner would. And so now I've got a current state. I've selected a certain set of prioritized changes I want to introduce. So it might be some new practices. Maybe I want to change a little bit in my org structure. Maybe I want to implement a new change in the process. Maybe I want to introduce a few new habits, or maybe I want to change habits that currently exist. And that's going to take me to my next step, right? And I want to make this as small as possible, because once I get to my next step, that's my new current state. And I'm going to be doing this in iterations going toward my vision and my aspiration. So that's what I'm going to do. And again, I'm selecting things that have to stay within this culture bubble. So more than likely, it's not going to be just one item that I want to change. I'm going to want to change several items to push that bubble in a certain direction. So again, many things to change. I labeled 4 there, but I could have a lot more. But I will say down here at the bottom that these new habits, they're the hardest thing to do, all right? And they're the most crucial. Because again, remember, culture creates habits that create the way we make decisions. So we need to make decisions to change the habits so we can change the culture. Some of these are going to be experiments. Some of these, if I introduce a new practice or a new habit or whatever, I'm going to fail in some of them. So the point is making the next state not too far contains my failure. Just like, again, in Agile. I don't want to do big design and after 3 months find out I'm making a failure. The shorter the period, the shorter the change, the smaller the change, the better off I'll be. So again, revisiting decisions, change my habits and culture. And looking at Pac-Man again, as I'm munching along, and these guys are my culture gremlins coming after me, I got to eat my little power thing to change. Those are certain key habits that I want to find, right? And that's what I want to do. I want to find those key habits that I can leverage. So what are some of the habits we may want to change? Maybe the way I conduct meetings, perhaps the way I give feedback. Could be how decisions are made and owned. Maybe I want to make agreements explicit instead of being implicit, right? Maybe I want to have people show vulnerability. So you'll look at none of these will actually show up specifically either in the Agile principles or the manifesto or any lean principles or anything, but they all reinforce an Agile mindset. That's what I'm really trying to get at. Because again, culture goes back to the identity of the sum of its people, so I need to work backwards by changing the actions and behaviors. Maybe I can get them thinking around the new values I'm trying to go for. So I want to work backwards up that part of that cultural model. So I'm going to focus in a little bit as an example of how we can look at learning new skills. Before we do that, I need you to understand one other thing. So again, Charles Duhigg has this great habit loop. You have a cue or a trigger that causes you to want to do something, take some kind of action. And at the end of that, I get some reward. The reward may be just avoiding pain of some kind. And there's a habit. My decision making that went into that is influenced by a habit, and this is called a habit loop. Whether it be the fact that if at an individual level I need to take a break, so I tend to like to light up a cigarette, so I go out and smoke, and now the reward is I'm getting a chance to get a break and get a breather, so I'm craving that, and that winds me wanting to crave a cigarette, for example. And then of course nicotine plays in. But another thing could be at an organizational level, I may do a certain way that gives me a feeling of control. So I follow that habit loop that gives me that feeling of control. I've got real control of this situation because I can see this data. Maybe I really don't have control, but I've given myself a false impression. But I create a craving, and sometimes maybe that habit loop works and other times it doesn't. Now, he writes in his book is, I can't do anything about changing the trigger. Whatever caused me to go through this loop, either the first time or the 5th time, I can't change it. He recommends you don't change the reward. And the reason he recommends that is if I change the reward and I'm introducing a new habit, I'm just trying to create a new habit loop, but I'm not getting rid of the old habit. So he recommends leave the reward the same and try to change the old habit into the new habit to get the same reward. All right? So you can kind of think of it, and I'm going to use a manipulative example, and that's not what I mean at all. If the mouse goes down this particular and always turns left and gets his cheese, and I eventually want him to turn right, then I've got to do something in this habits to make him change going to the right. I don't want to mean that we do anything manipulative. We want to help people guide explicitly and know, hey, you're seeing this reward, we want to change that. So with that in mind, let's look at the example. I need to know something new. This is my training or learning habit. So what do? I put in a formal request for training, I get a class, I get recognition. Why do I get recognition? Well, I usually come away with a piece of paper that says, hey, you passed this class. Or if you're a government employee, you get a check in your individual development plan that says you passed it. So rather than a craving for actual learning, I'm actually creating a craving for recognition, right? People want to get recognized. They come up with this certificate. They're known as the expert even though they may only have the piece of paper and never used it in actual life, right? We've all seen that happen before. So what I really want to turn this into is actual learning. And learning is best done through some self-study and some experimentation with hands-on, right? So I still want to keep recognition in here because again, I don't want to change the habit reward. I want to keep a craving for recognition, but somehow I need to make it in this form. How do we do this? Well, the way we go about doing this, we need to find the leverage points. And what I do is I take this habit loop, and Peter Senge has this great concept called, from the systems thinking, that's called a causality diagram, or causal loops. And so I'm going to blow that out. It's going to give me some more steps. The habit loop is known as a reinforcing loop in these kinds of diagrams. It reinforces itself, right? And I want to look for limiting conditions and side effect loops that are occurring so I can figure out better ways to solving this. So I'm going to bypass a bunch of interim loops that we looked at and go straight to the complex part. And just to give you an idea how to read this, here's my loop back here. So I actually put in the formal training request, formal training. Here's my thing that I'm coming out with, and that gives me recognition. Notice it's easy to measure. What I really want is somebody going around here to show vulnerability and state their intent that they want to learn something, because I need to know kind of like, hey, is this the right kind of learning for the organization if I'm in management? I mean, I do want to make some alignment, or I want to understand where the benefit's going to help and what we're trying to achieve. And I'd like to have some, them do their self-study and their experiment. Then they're going to have some time to absorb and learn that sharing, which, of course, this may have a little bit of failure in here, right? And after some delay, they'll get recognized, hey, you really know your stuff in this. You're the expert. And there's the recognition part again. But we got to recognize there's some delay in here. And most things reasons they're hard is because there's usually a delay in the fact that the reward now shows up. I could also have a side effect, for example. I may have somebody that just goes and learns the lingo enough to get smart. They're going to avoid showing that vulnerability. you know, they may not be trying to just